and welcome back to the DeAnda Factor. I'm DeAnda. Thanks again for joining. Please like and subscribe, and let's get into it, y'all. It has been a wonderful last few days. I celebrated a birthday, so I've been birthdaying. And I wanted to come on and just kind of give you some where I am right now. Again, I just mentioned that I just celebrated a birthday. So I've been in celebration and reflective mode. Lots of, I would say, kind of spiritual and kind of looking into myself has been kind of floating through this past week or the last few days. And I will say that my birthday was a great celebration. And a lot has happened. This has been a great year. And as I reflect on it, I am very thankful um, uh, and blessed with the things that I accomplished, the things that I had planned to do, and the things that kind of were presented in a way that made allowed for growth, allowed for expansion in my life in terms of friendships, relationships, um, uh, kind of learning how to pivot and learning new things. So let's get into it. So I'll first kind of give you a bit of um, look into my birthday. So I celebrate my birthday, and I have to share this with you all. My niece created, she's an artist, and she created this lovely card for me. She drew this. I love butterflies. If you know me, you know that butterflies are my like spirit animal, insect, or whatever you want to call it. At any rate, let me read to you what she wrote in the card. It says, and her name is Keegan. Thank you, Auntie Dee Dee, for taking time to merge me and my mother, my sister, lives into yours. Your love and kindness shared with your sister, her mother, pushes me to do the same for others. I hope all your birthday wishes come true. Take your time to clear your mind from worry and celebrate yourself. We love you. There's a heart there. And, she put from Kim and Keegan. And y'all, I feel like in that card is everything, everything. I love my ladybug. That's what I call her. To the moon and back. And to have her, say these things and present it in such a package that one I immediately resonate with. Um, Actually, goes within, what I've been, kind of reflecting on in terms of this year. She turned 16 this year, so we had her sweet 16. I traveled the first part of this year, and a lot of things unfolded in terms of just, you know, pivoting and taking a breath and getting out of my own way, lessons, if you will. And these things are, in my opinion, are reflected in this card that she gave me. So one of the other things that I want to also mention is mindset and how, even, I mean, being a Virgo, um, sometimes I have to give myself grace to say, okay, it's okay, and just kind of, really reach into the um, I don't have to do it all. I have community. You've heard me, speak about being in community, getting in community, getting your accountability partners, and in terms of mindset and making sure that you hit that and remove those, kind of limiting beliefs, and trying to be your I don't I I don't wanna not use a negative phrase, but, you know, making goals that are attainable, creating a mindset that will get you closer to those goals. And so, looking at my mindset, looking at the routines that I've employed over this past year and what I want to take into the next year around the sun, rotation, includes, kind of looking at those limiting beliefs, getting out of my own way, and making sure to, really be kind to myself and um, understand that, you know, everything doesn't need a plan, a 10-page plan, right? Some things you just do. And a lot of that was just kind of showed up in some of the decisions and actions that took place over this past year. Um, you may know, if you know me, last year on my birthday, I did a sunrise hike. Interesting and funny because I'm not a hiker, but I did, and the things that were born out of that uh, thing on my birthday, it was sunrise hike, and the goal was to get to the top and reflect on what I want my coming year to be, what I wanted to, bring into my usher into my life, what I wanted to continue with, what I wanted to maybe retire from, habits, people, all the things, right? And so a lot of that has to do with your mindset and how you then, think about how you know, create the plans to do just that. So I wanted to, mention that mindset. The other thing I wanted to mention is vision board. I redid my vision board for 2025, 2026, knowing that my birthday was coming up. And I'm going to see if I can drop a image of that in a moment. At any rate, I did a new vision board, and which also led me to look at what I did last year, the vision board I had for last year. And I periodically do them, maybe twice a year, just because you take some things off, you get some things done, and so you want to put something else in its place. At any rate, I did that, and in kind of looking at the one I created for 25, 26, I am so excited about what's to come. The other thing that I am employing, and that's new, that I wasn't doing necessarily, or at least I didn't have this name for it, for this year or this past year, was the great lock in. And I know seen it on social media, TikTok in particular, but people are getting into it, and it's in line with routine and or life changes that I've been employing for the last year. Just didn't call it that. Um, and one of the things that I was looking at, I think around June of this year, maybe it was May, the 5 a.m. club, which again, some of those principles are tied into the Great Lock In. And so, along with my vision board, though, and making sure that my mindset is, kind of in place, I'm getting set for a fantastic and magnificent a year to come. So those are some of the tools that I'm adding to my toolbox. The other thing, and some things that I've, been doing, that I will continue to do, is accountability partners, accountability partnerships. Some of those things are changing up in terms of who the accountability partners are, but I'm continuing the practice of, calls with my accountability partners, check ins with my accountability partners. And this includes my therapy, and therapists. Therapy, mental health, is a huge deal for me. If you've, been watching my channel, you know that, I'm in therapy. I advocate for therapy and highly recommend therapy. So I will be continuing with that. I will also leave a link in the description on, like, the platform in which I found my therapist, which is Therapy for Black Girls. And what you do in that is you throw in, your insurance information if you wanted, in person or virtual. And I feel like there are a couple of other things that you throw in there, and then they give you a list of people to contact. And then, like, you're looking for a partner or something, that's what you do for a therapist, and you find your therapist. I will say that when I did it, the first time I did it, the first couple of people were not for me. They were not my people. Um, that they were it was not my they were not my person, right? And then I did find my person. So, if you don't have a therapist, if you are looking for a therapist, it's always good to reach into your community or your, friend group and ask around. I have a friend who, she wanted, a Black man, as a therapist, which, when she told me the reasons why, added up and was like, I might, look into that next too. I've had pretty much, everybody as a therapist: white male, white female, several, Black females, Indian, you just kind of name it. And never considered, or it's never come up, because they must be not as many, or at least in the areas that I've looked. Um, and I've had both, in person and virtual. So, experienced it both ways. All while I was out of the country in Africa and Asia, I was still continuing my practice, and therapy sessions. I also was, participating in my mindfulness group. So, find the things that, work for you, that's in your toolbox. No matter where you are, mental health to me is just as crucial and, important to maintain as your physical health. So that's so the three things that I'll be continuing with is, actually it's four things, but I'll get to the fourth thing in just a moment. Three things that I just mentioned: the vision board, accountability partners, and, therapy. The, fourth thing that I will add is, setting boundaries and making sure that when you set those boundaries, be it with your family, with your friend groups, with your job, with your business, you set these boundaries, and understanding that you may have to go back to those boundaries to reset them. Once you're in them, you may have to pivot in your boundaries. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. One boundary that I have is for my job. It is, I start at a certain time and I end at a certain time. And it's not a lot of wiggle room there. Now, if I don't set that boundary, because of the type of person that I am, I'm going to work until I finish, especially since I work remotely, right? And so it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm not finished with this. Let me continue on. And then we're, into my dinner time. We're into, oh, I can't go, meet you for dinner because I am, working on this project that there's not a, deadline that is, staring me at the door or whatever, but I'm letting this work interfere or come into my personal life, right? And it's so easy to do that when you work remotely, and your home is basically, in the next room, or, upstairs if your, office is downstairs, or so be it, right? So setting, boundaries, and if you have to revisit or reset them, do that. In cases, and they were very rare, where I ended up, maybe working, 30 minutes or hour over because of whatever, then I make up for that in, leading into that boundary that I'd already set. How do I make up for that? How do I, pivot for that? That gives back to me, that pours back into me. Because this job, this employer gives no bleeping, about my health, my, finding those things that help me get to the next thing, removing stressors, that have nothing to do with me getting to the next thing, or getting to the next birthday is a good, example of what I mean by that, right? So setting boundaries. And that's the fourth thing that I'm taking into this next year. It's like making sure that I set those boundaries, I revisit those sets, and if I need to, pivot, reiterate them to myself, not necessarily to anyone else, but to myself, do that. The other, one of the new things that I'm bringing in for this next year is, and I got this from my therapist, is the wheel of emotion. When I am going through something, really deep. And one of the reasons why this was introduced to me is, and some of you may already be familiar with the wheel of emotion, and I will leave a link so you can at least see it, is to not just put these one words on how I'm feeling or what emotion I'm going through at the moment, and go a little deeper, right? And this is just for me. This is, I do share it in some cases with my therapist, but for the most part, it's for me to be able to examine exactly what is unfolding for me. With the wheel of emotion, and I'm looking for my notes on it. Once I identify what the emotion is, then I ask myself 3 or 4 questions to, again, go a little deeper. And it doesn't become this kind of one note or one word of, oh, I feel sad. Well, let's unpack this, feeling of sadness right now in this moment. What's really going on, basically? And this is, to me, also getting into that mindfulness mindset. This is also getting into self care, um, and therapy in a way, that you're giving yourself, right? And, or at least that's how I look at it, Virgo girl. At any rate, here are the questions that I ask myself once I've identified the emotion that I'm feeling, and I, kind of go deeper than just this one word, right? So one of the first question is, what is the emotion? What is the emotion here? And so I identify the word, go deeper in that. And let's give an example. So the emotion might be sadness and anger, and I'm maybe I may go deeper and say, the anger is, I'm disappointed in X, Y, and Z, or myself even. The next question is, what does it want me to know? So if I'm thinking going deeper into this, what is, what is this emotion bringing up for me? What do I need to know? What do I need to get out of feeling this particular emotion? Um, and um, One of the things that I put on here, under an emotion, feeling sadness, particularly on this particular day, is it wants me to get out of my own head, stop overthinking it. And I honestly can't remember exactly what was going on this particular day, but this is in my notes. The next question that it asks is, where do I feel it in my body? And I love this one because I never before this exercise thought about, okay, if I'm feeling sad or if I'm feeling angry, am I also having a physical pain here? And if I am, let's identify that. Let's call this out. Let's, dig a little deeper. And again, this is what this does. These questions help you do. And on this particular day, I had a slight headache and I was having stomach pains. And which I found interesting because I feel like once I identified this, the headache started to dissipate a bit. I didn't take any medicine for it, but I didn't realize that this was stress too, this stress related. So again, it allowed me to go a little deeper, really check in with myself, which is something that I don't always do. The last question is, if it could speak, what would it say? So if this emotion of sadness could speak, what would it say? And I put, take it slow. Just do one thing at a time. And again, now that I'm reading this, I think what was going on is I was trying to do, I was in Virgo mode and trying to, take on more than I should in that particular moment and on that particular day, and just doing too much. And I needed to slow down, because I do remember coming out of it, deciding, okay, I'm just going to let's just get this done, and I chose one thing to get done. And once I got that done, headache starts to dissipate, stomach pains completely go away. And I'm not feeling, angry or sad or whatever the case is, right? So again, I highly recommend you finding, your things, but that's one of the things that I'm taking into this next year, is, and that's a new thing, the wheel of emotion. The other new thing that I'm taking in, so let's see, the great lockout is one new thing. The 5 a.m. club is the second new thing. The wheel of emotion is the third new thing. And the fourth new thing is the 90-91 rule of productivity. Now, I will say that the 5 a.m. club, the great lockout, and the 90-91 rule of productivity are very similar. So I could really just, kind of put that under one, and that's not really, four different new things or whatever, because it's all under productivity. It's all under reaching goals and accomplishing goals, all of those things. So basically, I'm telling you, my new thing is making sure that I get on my goals. So I'm going to do a quick recap. But before I do that, I want to also mention that I'm going to the 2025 Exodus Summit, and I'm so excited. I was kind of on the fence. Am I going to go? I feel like I know a lot. I feel like, it's not much else that, I need to add. And I got a lot on my plate. I'm doing, some things or whatever. So, but I am. This year is also themed on around money and in my case, I would look at it as expansion on what I'm already doing, and adding additional tools to the toolbox box of reaching those particular goals. I am going to be traveling and fitting in more travel, um, but doing it in a way that is a little bit different from the travel that I did last year. And I had already said that I wanted, to do it in a way that I am not tied to an employer that I have to work 8 hours this time, at this particular moment, right? I have to log in from this time to this time, right? I don't want that obligation. So I am taking steps to revamp that and do that differently. And I'm going to take you on the ride with me. You're coming with me. So that's another new thing. So Exodus Summit, I cannot wait. I will drop a link in the description on how you too can get your ticket to Exodus Summit, which I, highly recommend if you are a Black woman. I should say that. And just do it. Just do it. It is, it has been a accountability partner for me. It has been inspiring for me, inspirational for me, in so many different ways. So that's happening. So now let's get to the recap. We're recapping where so the things that I will do differently or that I'm adding to my next run around the sun, spin around the sun, is the 5 a.m. club with and the great lockout um, principles, and the 90-91 rule, as well as the wheel of emotion. The things that I will continue doing and continue to, employ this next run around the sun is therapy. Therapy. If you don't have one, get one. Um, Accountability partners. If you don't have one, get some. I have a few. My vision board. Uh, Again, inspiration, kind of mapping out what I want to do, goals I want to accomplish, and continue with my mindset practices, and setting boundaries, making sure that my boundaries are set. I revisit them. I don't set them at the top of the year, like on my birthday and just forget about them and, come back and say, oh, yeah, I kind of did that. No, no, no. We, revisit them and making sure that we're on them. So I hope this was helpful for you. I thank you again for joining me, and we will see you next time. Thanks again. And I again ask you to like and subscribe. And yeah, thank you. And I'm still birthday, y'all. See you next time. Bye.